Hi boosters, welcome to the Boosted Volunteer webinar series. Today we're going to talk about Booster Club events. So whether you're planning your season kickoff dinner, your fundraising gala, or your end of season banquet, you're always working on in-person events in your Booster Club. And today we're going to talk about how to improve those events from an experience standpoint, how to make the planning easier, and how to make the outcome, whether it's building excitement for your season, raising money for your program, or recognizing those who did awesome things during your season. We're going to show you how to maximize those results. So thank you for joining us tonight. You can always join us in our live boosted webinar series. You can find the next episode at boosterhub.com. Love to have you join us in the live episodes where we will give you some handouts and usually a free gift from Booster Hub during those live webinars. So thank you for watching this one, and we look forward to seeing you on the next live webinar. So today we're going to cover just the overall planning for events. I like to call it a blueprint, where you put together your plan, your budget, the people that are going to be working on it, and what the desired outcomes are. We're going to talk about how you can leverage technology to make the planning of your event easier. Really important for Booster Club events. In fact, I think it's like the most important thing is building momentum for your events. And we're going to talk about some ways to do that. We'll talk about pricing, volunteer management, how to make an unforgettable experience, how to maximize that impact, and then just some tips and tricks on things that you may want to remember when planning events. So talking about building momentum, here's a little tip. Something amazing is coming soon. You want to save the date, July 22nd at 7 p.m. I'm not going to tell you what this is, but you'll find out later in this webinar as you see how we build the momentum and the excitement for this event at Booster Hub. So as I mentioned, we're going to really focus on 3 events today. Your season kickoff, whether this is the dinner or the meet the team or welcome to the band. These are great events to build the hype for your season. And why is that so important? Well, it's going to help you build the engagement for your season. And that's going to relate to things like fundraising and volunteers and having good attendance at your performances or your sports games. So these kickoffs are really important because they help build all that excitement around the beginning of the season. Here's our people, here's what we're going to be doing, and here's how you can help. So you'll want to do these. If you don't have these in your schedule, you'll definitely want to add them. Fundraisers are, of course, important. Now, not every program does a specific fundraiser, and sometimes the season kickoff is a fundraiser, so those 2 events happen together. So we're going to separate them today, just talk about them as 2 different events, but sometimes those are combined, and again, not every program does both of those. And then finally, because you're a Booster Club and you're celebrating the awesome achievements of all of our students, you're likely going to have a banquet, and banquets are just a slightly different style event. The outcome, the goal of the event is different, pricing is different, and planning is a little bit different. So we're going to talk about that today. Make sure that give you some great ways to celebrate the achievements and recognize your students. So let's start with our event blueprint. So if you don't have one, for every event that you have, you want to make a blueprint. This does not need to be a complicated document. It could just be a 1-page sheet that talks about, this is when we have it, this is what we do, this is the goal, here's some things that we have found worked, and here's some things that haven't. We're going to walk through it in a little more detail, but that's a good tool. You could even just make a 1-page sheet if you don't have the resources to make a whole plan. You can make a 1-page sheet, and that's going to be super helpful to the boosters coming in the future to see what you've done in the past. So it's really important whenever you have an event that you should elect a chair, and that person's sole focus should be on that event. I highly recommend that most of your chairs not be your Booster Club officers or board members. And this is for 2 reasons. One is, as a Booster Club officer or board member, you've got so many things going during the season, it's really hard to zero in on and focus on one single event for the whole season. And so having a chair allows that person to focus their energy and their time and their volunteer hours on that one event. The second thing it does is your chairs of your events are a great pipeline of people to roll into your Booster Club board. So they've done the work. They've been, out there on the front lines, getting people to volunteer and fundraise. So it's a great recruitment tool. And usually if you have somebody that's coming in as a first year or second year parent, you can roll them into the leadership role of these events. And sometimes it's also a different skill to lead an event. You want to create a 90-day plan or a 3-month plan for your event. There are some events you're going to plan a little sooner, but for most cases in our Booster Club, we've got a 3-month lead time. Your season kickoff, if that's in August, you should be working on that in May. If your banquet's in December, you should be planning that in September. If it's in May, then you should be working on it February, March timeline, because you're going to need a little bit of time to book your venue and get all the things lined up. Create a budget for your plan. So your event should have its own budget in your approved budget at your Booster Club. And once that budget is established, then it's really up to the chair to work within that guideline. So you're really giving the chair, here's the plan, here's what we want to achieve, and here's the budget. And then the chair can self-direct under that budget, obviously getting some input and feedback from the board, but you want to empower your chairperson to go out and do things so they don't have to call and say, I've got 4 venues, here's the pricing, what do you want me to do? You want to really give that person authority to act. And if you give them a budget, they can do that. And then finally, you want to include historical data. I remember I was planning a season kickoff event for our Booster Club years ago, and I was a first-year parent. Somehow I'd gotten into the role of the chair, but I was a first-year parent, and it dawned on me, I had no idea how many people I was planning this event for. Was it 150 people? Was it 300 people? Was it 50 people? And that specific number greatly impacted where we could have it, what kind of food we could have, our ticket prices, all these things. And there literally was no place for me to get that data other than going to a former board member and saying, hey, how many people normally attend this event? So be sure to track some historical data, such as ticket sales, attendance. This was our budget for the year before. Here's a venue that worked well. Here's something that didn't work well. Don't do this again. And you'll really give your chairperson a great framework to start with and be able to get, half the work done just by looking at the plan. So let's talk about the event chair. So you want to create a job description that includes all the specific details. They're going to be in charge of picking the venue, creating the subcommittees, managing the subcommittees, doing the sponsorship outreach or fundraising. They're going to be in charge of marketing or promotion of the event, or do you have a social media person who's going to handle those things? So you want to really outline this is what you're responsible for, and giving them specific job description with details really helps people know who's accountable for what piece of the program. You want to create a timeline with milestones. So if our event's in August, we need our venue picked out by June 1st at the latest. We should have our decor fixed or figured out by the end of June. We should have sponsorships in place by July 15th. So you can kind of give them a timeline with some milestones so they know, okay, I'm doing a good job. I'm on track to pull this off successfully. Again, you'll want to give them a general budget and allow the chair to navigate within that budget. And you can even break it down. It's a $5,000 budget, and last year we spent $500 on decor. So decor really should be in that $500 range. And you want to connect that chair with previous chairs, because there's a lot of information in booster clubs that just gets passed down verbally between people. So as much as we want to document everything, it's really good to make those connections, and they can talk to the previous chair about what worked and what didn't work. So when we look at the 90-day plan, let's just look at what we should be doing. So 90 days out, we want to have our chair in place, finalize the date, the venue, and the theme. We'll want to start the rally of sponsors and begin the marketing. At 60 days out, and sometimes even 45 days out, we'll want to open the ticket sales, organize any auction items, recruit our volunteers, finalize the menu and logistics. Then at 30 days out, we're going to confirm those volunteers, make our final marketing push, and this could even go up to 10 days before the event, depending on the timing of your event. And then your day of schedule. It is important to have, this is what's going to happen on the actual day, because not everybody understands hey, get there early. That means arrive at 3 o'clock for a 7 o'clock event, not 5 o'clock. Those 2 hours can make a big difference. And then on the event week, you're going to have your committees check in daily, coordinate your setup, do a volunteer briefing, and then have any contingency plans. Does it look like rain? Are we going to need extra parking? Do we have volunteers that aren't going to make it for some reason? So these are things that you'll want to take a look at in your plan. Let's look at the budgeting. So season kickoffs, this should be an event that your ticket price covers all of your costs. So that means when you pick your venue and your food, you want to add all the costs, the tax, the gratuity, everything in there, and your decor budget, and then divide by the expected number of attendees. And your ticket sale cost should be at least that amount. If you do fundraising at this event, it should be all additional profit. It shouldn't go to subsidize the cost of the event. You may want to increase your marketing a little bit for season kickoff because you're doing something more than just having the event. You're building that hype for the season. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you've got great social media. You may want to do some, if you're a volleyball team or football team, you may want to do some little throw balls at the event that people can take home with them. So you may want to put a value on building that hype and increasing the budget a little bit. And you want to try to keep these ticket prices as low as possible because this is really an event you want a ton of people at. You want as many people as possible to attend this event. So your budget should look like this. It should be about 70% of your total budget should be your venue and your food. Entertainments, activities, and decor should be about 15% of your budget. 5% on marketing and promotion. And again, this one, that could bump up to 10% because this is a hype event. And then supplies and logistics, 5%, and then always put a 5% contingency in your budget. If we're looking at a fundraising gala, this is a little bit different. Ticket sales should cover all the cost and include a donation. So if your cost per person is $50, you're going to want to sell these tickets for $75. Any fundraising you do should be all profit, and that's obvious because the ticket sales include a donation. And then you may want to get a sponsorship to help reduce the cost so that those donations are even higher. And consider things like VIP packages and whole table sales and things like that. This event is specifically for raising money for your program. So you want to figure out how to pull all those levers and maximize the amount you're going to fundraise at this event. Your budget should look somewhat like this. Your venue and your food should be 40%. Entertainment, activities, and decor, 15%. Marketing and promotion, 5%. Again, we have supplies, logistics, and contingency at 5%. And then you should have about a 30% donation in this ticket price. Usually, if people are buying a ticket for a fundraiser, they understand that the price of this ticket is inflated to cover a general donation to that program. Then let's talk about banquets. So ticket sales, again, should cover all the costs. It's kind of like a season kickoff. Fundraising should be limited. That's not really the point of this event. The point of this event is to highlight the achievements of our participants, our students, and our players. If you do fundraising at this, it may be like a third party. You may be raising money for a special association or a charity. Something like that is generally something you'd want to do at a banquet. You could have sponsorships to offset some of the awards or the cost. And here's your budget breakdown for a banquet. About 70% of that should be venue and food, 15% entertainment, awards, and decor, and then you see marketing, promotion, supplies, logistics, and contingency, all about 5%. You should plan for a 10% no-show rate, even for the people who bought tickets. But then you're also going to have some last minute people who say, I want to show up at the event. I found in most of my Booster Club events, my ticket purchased ends up being about my attendees. It's not because it's the same people. It's because the people that bought tickets, some of them don't show up. And then we always have a few people who are like, oh my gosh, I didn't buy a ticket, even if we've said 100 times ticket sales closed before the event. So just plan for about the number of tickets sold. You'll be right on with your budget, and that'll make sure you've got a meal for everyone who wants to attend. You do want to factor in any transaction fees, such as credit card processing fees, or if you're using an auction software, something like that, any platform fees. You'll want to include some volunteer appreciation. A great tip for this is to use your decor and then make that your volunteer appreciation. So in our Booster Club program, we were a volleyball program, and our banquet was always in December. And so we would decorate with things like poinsettias. And then at the end of the night, we would recognize all of our volunteers and they would get to take the poinsettias home. So it was a great way to have the decorations do double duty. Consider using your school facilities to reduce cost. So sometimes it gets old having everything at the school, but you have all the things you need. You've got the facility, you've got tables, chairs, usually custodial services. If you can use a cafeteria, sometimes you even have kitchen tools. So school facilities can go a long way. And there's a lot of great, inexpensive decor that can really transform a school space. So I definitely recommend looking into those options. Now we're back to talking a little bit about momentum. We're going to have a live demo of Booster Hub on July 22nd. No, really, we are, so you should join us. So now I'm telling you what the event is and more specifics about it. We're going to get into why you should attend next. So let's talk about leveraging technology. You're definitely going to want to sell your tickets online. Nobody should be using cash or checks or forms at this point in time. And you'll likely want to use a QR ticket. That way, when people come, they can just scan their ticket and walk right in. You don't have to have a list and a volunteer checking names. Booster Hub has a great tool, Booster Stub, that does this. It's built specifically for these purposes. You'll want to use a volunteer sign-up tool to manage your committees and your volunteer sign-ups. This way, you have all your committee members have that information, but your regular families and members can also see, hey, we need a couple extra people to help set up for the fundraiser tonight or the banquet. So definitely use those online volunteer sign-up tools. Sell your sponsorships online. Make it easy for that sponsor to click a link and sponsor your event. They don't want to chase you down. They don't want to write a check. They want to go, this is great. I want to participate. I want to add my logo here. I'm going to click a button. If you're going to do a silent auction and you want people who aren't at the event to be able to bid, then you'll probably want to use an online silent auction tool. And there's some great options out there. You'll want to check the fees and the platform fees on those to make sure that you're using the best tool. You don't need a complicated one. Usually Booster Club events don't need a lot of the extras that these services offer. So you can usually find a really just entry-level, inexpensive online silent auction tool. Simplify your checkouts for your live auctions. So make sure you have multiple credit card places where people can check out. You can add up what they've purchased and get their payment. And if you're doing live auctions, sometimes you can even now walk around the room with the credit card device and take the payment right at the end of that particular item. And that helps make sure everything gets paid, because one of the big chaos pieces of an event, particularly, is the end of the night when you're taking payments for everything. So if you do it as you go, it can really help eliminate lines and expedite those processes. Then be sure that you have QR codes all around the room, and this is really for all the events, to say, hey, support our program. Here's how you can make a general donation. This is really important. You're not going to get a ton of donations from this, but you're going to get donations from people like the grandmother who has attended, and it's like, oh, they've never asked me for a donation, but I can just click here on my phone and I can donate to this program, and I see what wonderful things this is doing for my grandchildren. So you want to just always give people that opportunity to donate. Now we're back to building a little momentum. You won't want to miss how you can save hours every week running your Booster Club. So if you're doing a season kickoff event, this might sound like, you don't want to miss the Meet the Team. We've got some exciting things happening this season, and you get to be the first one to meet the whole team. This is the kind of social media promotion you should be having for your events, not buy your ticket to our season kickoff. So you want to help build the momentum to get people to attend these events. So typically we see people saying, we need donations for our online fundraiser. We need donations for our season kickoff. We need donations for a fundraiser. We need volunteers for a fundraiser. Buy your tickets. What happens is your audience gets so exhausted with all these requests that they really can't lock in and know, hey, I really want to do something. This looks a little bit interesting. This looks a little bit different. So what we want to do is wrap these things in excitement. We're doing the same thing. We're asking for donations, volunteers, and to buy your tickets, but we're going to put a little excitement around them. So let's talk about that. So phase one is our awareness phase. So you're going to want to do this 6 to 8 weeks out. Get the event on the calendar. Use a save the date, social media teasers, email blasts, something amazing's coming. Or if you have a theme, roll out your theme and get people like, what are they talking about on social media? This is very exciting. There's something coming on August the 8th. And you're starting to build that momentum. Then phase two, you've got that little teaser out there. People are excited. 4 to 6 weeks out, you're building the excitement and you start to reveal the details. Meet the Eagles on this night. It's going to be great. We're going to do this theme. And we've got our old coach from 2 years ago who's coming out to give an awesome presentation. Or we had this amazing trip donated by this incredible family. Here's why you don't want to miss this event. Then we're going to phase three, creating a little bit of urgency and saying, we only have 4 VIP tables at the event, or we have a special table where you can sit with the coach during our meet the team kickoff dinner, or our band director. Create some urgency and say, the first 10 tickets sold get to sit at the band director's table. Make some early bird deadlines. There's a price discount if you buy early. You don't want to miss this. Fear of missing out, right? And limited VIP seats. And now we're into the 1 to 2 weeks out. So we've got a final push. You could do a last minute deal, or it's just, hey, if you don't buy your ticket by Friday, you don't get to attend next Saturday. So you really got to get going, or you're not going to get to attend this event. Or 5 days until our banquet, where we get to celebrate all the accomplishments of our season. I found those countdowns are like really effective for an event. People get so excited and you're not really doing anything. You're just counting it down. And this is your last chance to be part of something really special. So building the momentum, building some marketing around your event, I promise you will help make your results incredible, down from the number of people who attend, to how much money you raise, to how excited everybody is about celebrating your students. Let's talk about pricing. So season kickoffs, we want to keep those prices low so we can keep our attendance high. Consider pricing for some free tickets. You may want to give this to school staff, your players and their families, your sponsors. You may want to have your sponsors come to this event. Usually $20 to $25 is a good price range for season kickoffs. Depending on your area, you may be a little higher if your venue and your food costs are a little higher than that. Fundraising galas, this is where you can kind of make people get that fear of missing out. Like, we're going to create some VIP experiences that are at a high cost, and then kind of bring the cost down to an entry-level ticket. Generally, we're going to see these in the $75 to $100 range, but I have seen some events as high as like $250. So again, it depends on your area and kind of what your audience can afford. Banquets, I really like to offer some family packages, try to make sure we get the whole family there to recognize the student's success, keep the price in the $20 to $25 range. And I'm a big fan of making sure our students or our players attend for free. You can do that. One of the ways to do that is to just keep your food costs really low, serve something simple, and you can usually get the cost in that range. Volunteer management, we talked a little bit about making sure you're using an online volunteer tool. You'll definitely want to have a chair, and the chair make committees, and then each committee has a leader. So you'll have a decor committee, a fundraising committee, a setup and cleanup committee. Make sure that there's also clear roles and job descriptions for those volunteers. This is really important. It gives people accountability and authority, and that allows people to jump in and do their job. They don't have to stand around and go ask Susie what they need to be doing. They know what they need to be doing. Create a private group chat that's just for your event with your chair and your volunteers on it so they can coordinate. Add volunteer slots so that some of your members who aren't on any of the committees can jump in. Yeah, I'm happy to set up tables or take down tables for the event. Break it into small jobs so you can get more people involved. And then be sure at the end of the event to acknowledge and thank those volunteers publicly. This is really important, something that gets lost. A lot of times the person putting on the event is so busy, and then we don't get that thanks and acknowledgement that comes with putting on such a big event. And none of these events are easy to do. They all take a lot of time. So let's talk about how to make it an unforgettable experience. So here's the keys to success: a great theme, good decor, MC, which I think is probably the most important thing, the experiences at the event, and then the event flow, which is probably my number 2 thing. That's how you make a really good event. So on your theme, it should connect to your school theme or your program identity. It should be memorable, flexible for decor, and budget friendly. You don't have to overthink themes. They're just super helpful for putting something together, a few decor items, maybe the invitation and the social media stuff. A lot of great tools out there you can use for this, Pinterest and Etsy and all of those. But don't overthink this one. And then also make sure that any theme that you're doing allows you to keep your decor very simple. So you don't want to get into really expensive and detailed decor. That'll start to be a problem. We talk about decor. So it's great if you have a venue that already has decor. If they have tables and chairs and tablecloths or table settings already, then you can just pop in a few things that fit your theme and you're done. We had our banquets for our Booster Club program at the same place every year. And our banquet was always at Christmas time. And this place did a wonderful job with lights and all these decorations. And then we'd pop in a few volleyballs, and that's all we had to do. One year we had it at a community center where we had to start with a blank room, and that was so much harder. So think about that when you're choosing your venue. If you do have a limited budget on decor, just focus on your stage, your tables, your auction area, and maybe a nice dessert table or something like that. You don't have to do the whole thing. You just want to put little decor where it can really make a difference. It's 2025, and our students and all of our families love to do selfies and Instagram and all of the social media. So probably the most important thing in your decor is to make sure you have some great photo op. I recommend, investing into something that you can create a great little photo setting, and then maybe have a photo booth, hire a photo booth or photographer to come out and take pictures. This is a great way to get the students excited. It's also a great way to share on social media after. So think about this as kind of more marketing for the program than just decor. One other tip is be sure to share your banquet and your kickoff decorations with other booster clubs in your program. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. Everybody's doing banquets, everybody's doing season kickoffs. If you've got the little jars and this and some tablecloths and some stands and things like that, at our school, we had a closet that had all those things in it, so we could start there. We wouldn't need to purchase or rent those things every time. To me, the most important thing on an event is the MC. This gets lost on a lot of booster club events. Sometimes we default to the coach or the band director. Sometimes we default to the committee chair or the booster club president. If any of those people are a great public speaker and like emceeing an event, then they might be a good option. Those three people are also generally very busy at these events, so they often don't make a great MC for that reason. So you want to find someone who's a powerful public speaker who can stand up and give webinars for half an hour, who's familiar with the school, the team, and the culture, can tell some jokes, can help transition from one segment to another, who's engaging and entertaining, and who can handle some unexpected things. The mic's not going to work. The Wi-Fi is going to go out. The food's going to be cold. It's going to happen. And a great MC can wrap that all into the event and keep things moving along. We had one of our programs where the coach liked to MC, and she wasn't a great MC. In fact, most of the time when she was talking, it sounded like she was shouting. And after 4 years of attending the events, I just got so exhausted because it was literally the coach up there screaming students' names for 2 or 3 hours, where I almost didn't want to attend anymore. So you want to think about that. And this is where your chair can come in and make a nice decision and say, hey, we have a former parent from 5 years ago who's great at this, or we even brought in an auctioneer to do our auctions who also did our MC work. And that was really, really helpful. So definitely put some time into this and think about it. And then experiences. You can have your students perform. You can have your marching band perform or your school choir. You could bring in local talent to do your music. You could have recognition ceremonies for your students and your volunteers. And if you are doing a fundraiser, you may want to purchase higher end entertainment. So the season kickoffs and the banquets don't need it. But if you're doing a fundraiser, you may want that higher end entertainment. But don't forget, you've got a lot of talent in your school, so use that first. And then the other thing that I find can really impact an event and take it from good to bad or vice versa is the event flow. And this is how people come in, what they do, where do they go next, what time does the food happen, when are we going to start the awards, do we have 10-minute videos for every senior and we have 20 seniors? That's going to be awful. So you need to think about those things. So you want to create a timeline for your event. This is the registration period. Then we expect people over here. Then the MC is going to start this part. Then coach has 10 minutes. And if coach goes to 15 minutes, that's okay. But we don't want coach to go to 45 minutes if we only plan 10 minutes. You want to add music and video for transition periods. That makes for a really great event. You'd be surprised how just adding music to an event can really change the dynamic of it. The event should have a highlight, such as a keynote or a special recognition or a team introduction. So if it's your season kickoff, your team introductions are probably going to do this for you. If it's a fundraiser, you're probably going to want to have a keynote of some type. And if it's a banquet, you'll probably have a special recognition. And again, you want to make sure everyone's recognized, but you also want to make sure that these don't go on and on for hours. It'll really impact people wanting to attend these events. Consider things such as registration and checkout. These are two things that are so simple, but can really impact if there's a long line to get in or a long line to get out. So you want to just go, oh, there's just a tiny little bit of space where we're going to check people out at the end of the night. And I don't think that's going to work. Let's move this to a different area. And watch out for things that steal momentum. Again, like those super long videos. It's great to see everybody when they're a baby, but by the time we get to the third or fourth student, and I've been watching 15-minute videos of every senior, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. So if you're going to do something like that, limit them to 2 minutes or 3 minutes. That's what we do on social media, and it works great. That's what you should be doing at your events. And then also things like you'll want to transition from an auction back into the program and things like that. Those are little timing parts of your event that can really impact whether or not people stay another hour or if they start to leave. When we talk about that momentum building, you also want to create some urgency, like spaces are limited. Your tickets are limited. You got to get your ticket today. We can only accommodate 150 people, or our VIP tables are limited. We talked a little bit about this back in Momentum, but I'm showing you here again in a real world example for our Booster Club demo. So spaces are limited, register today. If you'll notice, I didn't put the QR code to actually register till like our fourth announcement of this demo. So that's some of the things you want to think about when you're marketing your event. You don't have to always say, here's the tickets, buy them now. Build the excitement first. They can't even buy a ticket yet. And then, oh my gosh, tickets went on sale today. So it helps you build that momentum to get people excited. And let's talk about maximizing the impact. So in your season kickoff, you want to generate excitement, build the hype, get people coming out to your events for the season, donating, volunteering, all of those things. Build community support and attendance. Spark your fundraising. I like to think is the spark that gets the fire going. And season kickoffs are also a great place to sell spiritware. You can either order stuff and sell it at the event or have a QR code for your online spiritware. But this is where people are excited. Everybody's going to buy the shirt and buy the hat. They're ready to go. They're Eagles fans. So that's the whole impact of the season kickoff. The fundraising gala, it's all about raising money. I tried to do a fundraiser once with no auctions because I thought they were sort of gimmicky. And I thought, oh my gosh, people know that they're here to donate and they'll buy their ticket and they'll come in and they'll donate. And they didn't. It was terrible. So build momentum, have a silent auction, a live auction, themed baskets, paddle raises, a wine auction, any of those things. Create a fund and need. So if your program needs a new semi-trailer or needs a new sand volleyball court or needs new practice gear for the football team, if you create a fund and need, just by creating it, it builds a little momentum and helps get people excited about donating. Also offer a paddle raise. So this is something you do usually at the end of a fundraiser. And what it does is it gives everyone a chance to volunteer. So usually you start at a high dollar amount and say, hey, we're going to just raise money for this specific thing. And you seat a couple people at $500 and $250. And at the end, the goal is to have everybody raise their paddle for $20. And this gives everyone a chance to donate even if it's not for a specific thing or an auction. You have people who didn't win an auction and they still want to do something, but if you don't ask them, if you don't create some momentum, sometimes those people won't donate. So a paddle raise is a great way to do that. At your banquet, it's all about recognizing those students. So make sure they get the awards and the recognition that they deserve. Your seniors usually should be spotlighted and have some highlights. I've talked a little bit about making sure that we plan for that and let people know, yep, you've got 2 minutes to highlight your senior. Create awards for your students and your volunteers. How about a Volunteer of the Year award or a pin for everybody that's volunteered in your program this season? And again, photos and video slides are great, but keep them short. And then finally, let's look at some tips and tricks. These are just some quick miscellaneous things that I think are good to remember. For banquet and season kickoffs, you can keep that food really simple. You don't need to get fancy. We don't need steak here. We're just talking like burgers. In Texas, we see a lot of like chicken fried steak and things like that. One tip, if you are going to do a buffet, make sure you have people serving it. We actually ran out of food at one of our banquets because we let the players go first and they kind of scooped out every tray. And by the time the last set of parents got through, there was no food left. So if you're doing a buffet, take it from me, have servers for that. Always have good quality AV and test it ahead of time. Bring a hotspot. I promise you the Wi-Fi is not going to work. I've been to so many events and it's always, either the device can't connect to the Wi-Fi or the Wi-Fi is slow or the Wi-Fi went out. If you have a hotspot, you'll save yourself the headache. Create the QR code and the general donation signs. Have your MC promote that several times during the program. Be sure to review your insurance requirements. If you're having it in an event venue, they're probably going to ask you to provide some insurance. There's some great insurance companies out there that insure booster clubs. Even at your school, you may have to have some insurance. But think about that. This is where people can slip and fall and get hurt. Things can happen. And so if you were having it, at some offsite place, you would want to think about what the impact could be on the booster club. And then my best tip for events is find a venue that has everything there so you're not renting and starting from scratch. That's a lot of work for volunteers putting on an event. If we are doing a professional event or a corporate event and we've got event planners, that's one thing. But when you're coming in and you've got a volunteer doing this position, it's great to start with, 30% of the work already done. Thank you, boosters, for all the work that you do. We know how hard you work in your communities, and thank you for joining us here in the Boosted Volunteer Community, sponsored by Booster Hub. You can visit our website at boosterhub.com for more information about our software and our tools that can help you run your booster club like a champ. And we've got some great tools on YouTube and all the social media platforms. Have a great year. We're looking forward to seeing how you knock it out of the park.